of the DSP. As always, I'm your host, Josh. And tonight's guest, I am so honored to have him on because in my opinion, he's like the legend of the sport. Got to where it is and made it what it is, especially on the Pro Tour side. You can hear from everybody, like Spicy Boy even says all the time, like the stuff that Terry Miller does for this sport is just mind blowing. So without further ado, Terry Miller, I'll let you fully introduce yourself, where you're from, and how did you even get into disc golf?
Well, thank you very much. I'm Terry Miller. I go by the Disc Golf Guy. Thank you for all the kind words as well. I appreciate that. I am very blessed to have found the sport when I was a kid, back around the age of 12 or 13 or so. It was, I believe, between 7th and 8th grade of camp. During that summer, between 7th and 8th grade, I went to a camp. We were throwing regular frisbees into like red grocery baskets, just like when you go and get a couple items. Well, they had us throwing regular frisbees into those. So it was truly frisbee golf in that sense. When I got home, I quickly found out that there was actually a disc golf course nearby, which is in Appleton, Wisconsin. That's where baskets were located, actual regular chain baskets with a full 18-hole course. I eventually fell in love with that, and then continued to grow and thrive from there, playing throughout high school and getting fully involved. And then, of course, played and got a lot more active behind the scenes during college at UW-Milwaukee, which is eventually where I moved to, the Milwaukee area. Appleton is about 2 hours north. Moved down to the Milwaukee area, and Appleton, just put it on the map, is also about 30 minutes south of Green Bay, where the Packers play. And I moved to the Milwaukee area in southeastern Wisconsin. I've been in that area ever since. And starting in 2003, I had left my full-time job that I got right out of college, where I was working at Kohl's Corporate in the IT area, doing technology stuff. I left that and started my own works of running disc golf leagues and tournaments, and just getting really excited about disc golf and doing everything I could to help grow it. And I've been doing disc golf full time in one way or another, or in 10 ways or another, I suppose, ever since 2003. And played a lot as an amateur, and then played in a couple of AM Worlds as a young kid.
Ooh.
And then eventually started playing in Pro Worlds, played in 4 consecutive AM Worlds as a teenager, and then played in 16 consecutive Pro Worlds. And by the time that was my time was coming, that I was not going to be a world champ anytime soon, that was also perfectly timed with me doing more and more on the media side, where I've been doing disc golf vlogs, live broadcasting, podcast, things of that nature. So yeah, here it is. It's been a long ride.
Wow, I didn't even know like you played for that long and were like that good. When did you when did you decide to go pro? And like what did that feel like when you made that decision?
Yeah, things were a lot different. The year was 2000, and I had some successes as an AM2 player, which we still had a different vibe to it then. Then I played advanced, and I was all about trying to do well in AM Worlds. It felt like I failed miserably at every AM Worlds, and I thought I had one more shot at it at 2000. But then in 2000, in the beginning of 2000, I had done really well at a tournament in Michigan, and I turned down the money to maintain my amateur status. Then I went to another tournament and during spring break, and I turned down the money there. And then finally, when I went to a third tournament and was offered money, I think I tied or beat Avery Jenkins. We might have tied Avery Jenkins in 2000, spring of 2000. That's when I was like, what am I doing? This is silly. And I accepted the whopping like $98 and became a pro. So 2000 is technically when I became a pro. And I peaked around 2007. I was pretty consistent for a lot of years, but I peaked around 2007 to 2010, where I was like 995 rated, which felt a little better back then than it does today, because there was a lot less of us. But I was a very consistent pro for the most part. I was never in threat of winning any national tours pro tour days, but I was consistently cashing as a pro in the region, and occasionally cashed at the world championships. I did in 2007 and in 2008. I cashed at both of those worlds and a few others before that, and 2011 actually. But anyway.
Wow. That's amazing. So nowadays, since you're like so busy with media, do you still get able to like have the privilege of playing like leagues and tournaments, or do you find yourself playing more casual rounds with like some of the pro tour players?
Unfortunately, I don't do either. I hardly ever touch discs. I
Oh,
will.
okay.
I am frequently going to now a Monday night putting league that's local to me that I just went to last night. That's 15 minutes away, and it's run by a set of disc golfers that own a bar. So it's almost there just to be social. I'm far more there to be social than I am to trying to hone any skills. And I have just as many hours as you do or as the next person. So I used to
Hmm.
always say I don't have time for it. The better phrasing is truly I don't make time for it. I don't prioritize playing like I used to. And therefore, I only get out once a month at most to play. Sometimes I'll go in spurts where maybe I'll play 2 or 3 days in a row. But I no longer prioritize playing like I used to. I kind of have to force myself, or sometimes when I'm presented with unbelievable opportunities like playing around in another country, that's when I'll try to take advantage of it. Last year I did that in Norway or Finland and Estonia and Thailand. So sometimes when I go to other countries, I'll make it more of a priority because I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get back here. So I've got to at least play while I'm here. And I enjoy doing that.
Yeah. So, how did you get yourself like into like the filming and like in the booth for the pro tour?
I, pro the well filming I started my channel in January of 2010, and that was simply because blogging was very popular at the time, and I read Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, who basically said you can take any recreational thing you do or hobby or interest and you can turn it into a living or a career. Well, I was already trying to promote disc golf at that point, but he really got me to realize like, hey, just turn on a camera and start talking or start writing or start doing whatever it is that you do. And I thought, well, I have a nine to start giving people updates about disc golf. And so that's what my first few vlogs were like. And then finally, that was around the time that Disc Golf Planet was just starting to trying to dabble in some live broadcasting. And I was friends with the gentlemen that were in the midst of doing it, Terry Roddy, who worked for CBS Golf, and then also John Duzler, who was the PDGA marketing director for a while. And they knew that I wasn't shy in front of a camera. That got me doing a little bit of the commentary side of things. And I was volunteering a lot of my time to do that and help out with that. And then in 2013, 2014, me and my good buddy, Johnny V, started doing Smashbox, which was live broadcasting. And eventually we were pretty much the only live broadcasting option. So when Steve Dodge came to us, who I had befriended a few years earlier, and he came to us and said, "Hey, I want to start the pro tour. Here's what it looks like." He gave me the PowerPoint presentation and the hour spiel on it. And then he said, one thing that's going to set this apart from all the other tournaments in the world is we want to guarantee live coverage. And
Ooh.
me and my best friend, Johnny, were the only two offering live coverage pretty much at that point. Or we were the two most ambitious at doing live coverage, I should say. And just by default, when you're a two-man show, you wear a lot of hats. And Johnny
Yeah.
V wasn't the talker, I was. And that's kind of how things started. And then eventually that rolled into, being officially contracted pretty much every weekend that the Disc Golf Pro Tour was having events in the early stages. And so it's grown and evolved, of course, since then. Now we have so many events and so many weekends, along with a ton of different commentary. But uh,
Yeah.
nobody gave me the job. I just kind of started it. And so by default, I was the guy doing it.
That's really cool. So, speaking of the Pro Tour, so when it first started, what was it like, and how much has it changed to like what we see now?
Yeah, when it first started, I'll speak a little bit from the
Mm.
media perspective first, is that when we first started, first of all, there was only 5 Pro Tour events back in 2016. We started the Pro Tour in Maple Hill. It was at that
Okay.
time the MVP Open, maybe, or one of the 9 names Steve Dodge has renamed it to. But it was started there. We had Minnesota on the tour. We had Wisconsin on the tour. We had Ledgestone on the tour, and then we closed out at GMC, and it was crazy. It was just 5 events, but all 5 of them had live coverage, which was like 4 more than anyone else was doing, and it was a lot of the players were still hesitant, and that's because the national tour what really kind of was the pro tour, what the pro tour became. The national tour was a series of events that were the highest level events that weren't majors. They were the series of events that were scattered throughout the country, and trying to attract all the best players and have the biggest purses on the best courses. And the pro tour basically said, we want to do that, but better. And we want to have live coverage at all of them. So a lot of the players, there's plenty of interviews out there where players are like, yeah, the pro tour, this new pro tour idea is great, but the national tour is where it's at. Like, that's the established thing that we've had for a decade, and that's what we know is happening right now. So the first couple of years was a huge just transition of proving the pro tour could be this tour of events that were well run, that had an elevated purse, that had an elevated experience, and eventually they were doing things. The pro tour was doing things better than the national tour in some regards, not in all regards, but in some ways. And then finally the players' mentality kind of switched of like, oh wait, the pro tour really kind of is doing all these things right, and the national tour is now lagging a little. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
yeah.
And so the tone shifted, and everyone was like, well, wait a minute, we're going to put our eggs in the basket of the pro tour. And eventually Steve Dodge went to the PDGA and said, all right, enough of us fighting about this, so to speak. Let's have one tour. Let's take a bunch of the best national tours and let's take a bunch of our best pro tours. Let's just call it an elite series and call it the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and we manage it, and we become the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And eventually they merged in a sense, and now that's why you see that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is the official pro tour of the PDGA. So it's a separate entity, but it's a partnered with the PDGA.
Okay, cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's been a long, very, very windy road.
Yeah. Now from like the player perspective, how has it changed, like from beginning to where it is now?
Yeah, I think it was really just a tone and a mood shift and a trust issue. It was, here's what we've had for a decade. Here's the job that the national tour events do. And then here's this new guy, Steve Dodge, who's a little funny and quirky, but very innovative and smart. It was a matter of them all trusting and believing in him, and then him making the pro tour a better alternative, so that if they didn't go head to head, but if you had a pro tour event and a national tour event and you said, okay, everybody sign up, you can only do one or the other next weekend. Of course, he's trying to win favor that the pro tour looked better for them, more lucrative. And that was payout, that was course, that was event experience, that was media exposure, because the national tour had media, but not to the extent that the pro tour did. And again, live coverage was a major deciding factor in all of that. There were only a couple of events all year long that ever had live coverage. And then when the pro tour came along and essentially promised live coverage would be at every event, that was a really big selling point for a lot of people. And you can argue or not, if you love live or post, and that's fine, but live coverage was definitely a driving force behind a lot of that. So the players just continued to buy in. They continued to trust Steve. They continued to be heard and validated. And eventually, like I said, the pro tour won favor over the national tour. And that's why you saw them ultimately combine and join.
Cool. So, all right. So this question is going to like go back a little bit, because like obviously I'm kind of like a newer kind of player, so I missed out on seeing any of this.
Sure.
So what was it like watching Ricky and Paul battle out, like everyone talks about all the time?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, there you have so many sports rivalries, and I'm maybe not the greatest at coming up with every analogy, and it depends on how old you are as to how they hit when I mention them. But when you think of a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, or Magic Johnson, or an MJ or something like that, whatever.
Yeah.
You're talking about a couple of the greatest ever in their own ways, and Paul often had the upper hand, but it was still an incredible rivalry, and it felt like a lot of times when you showed up, it felt sometimes like a two-man race. There was other really incredible players, and there still is today. I mean, nobody can truly just run the table and win every single event, but it kind of felt like if Paul and Ricky were both in the field, you were playing for third. And to just watch the two of them and be so, I hate to overuse the word, but to just be so damn clutch all the
Yeah.
time is what it felt like. Like if Paul was back 6 going into Sunday, you're like, he could still win this. Like, and you didn't even think about it. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, he'll find beast mode, he'll turn it on, and he'll take it away. And Rick, I mean, you look at Rick's stats, even to this day, of when he's out in front, he's almost impossible to catch up to. And so, Rick has had the upper hand over the last couple of years, but the two of those guys in the heyday in the, 2014 specifically, when you look at the 7-hole playoff at Worlds, there's just some of the most clutch and exhilarating golf you could ever ask for. And I, I feel like to this day, that might have been better golf than sometimes we even see today. Back
Hmm.
then might be the caliber, and maybe that's a hot take. I'm not disrespecting anyone today, but I don't know. Just the way they battled back and forth between the two of them every weekend was incredible. And then the rivalry continued to develop. At one point, they were kind of friendly, and then they both had a little chip on their shoulder because they both were going for that number one spot, which Paul often would hold over Rick.
Yeah. So how did you feel when they both this year decide? Obviously, Paul's been with Discraft for a while, and like, what was your first thought when you seen Ricky joining Discraft?
Initially, there's a little bit of shock, right? There's like, how is that possible? But then you also do remember this is still at the end of the day an individual sport. Uh,
Hmm.
and let's be real. I don't care which manufacturer gets mad at me for this. It doesn't matter the manufacturer. Ricky won world titles throwing Latitude. Paul won world titles throwing Innova and Discraft. Like, the plastic's the plastic. James
Hmm.
Conrad won a Worlds beating Paul, throwing MVP. It just none of the
Yeah.
plastic, for the most part, the plastic doesn't matter. It's the player, it's the heart, it's the soul, it's the dedication, it's all of those other things. And I at the time, I didn't think much of it other than, this is just great. And you almost feel a little deflated. Going back, you feel almost deflated, like I said, when it felt like you were just showing up and playing for third. Now, in today's present, they're no longer dominant. Ricky still is very much up at the top consistently, but neither of them dominate the way they used to. And so to see them on the same team after a little initial shock wore off, I feel like it shows some growth. It shows maturity. It shows where we are as a sport, and it shows where they are in their careers. Like, maybe some chippiness or chip on their shoulder, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe some attitude has diluted a little bit. And again, it's still an individual sport. They're not best friends. They're not calling each other and making sure their outfits, don't clash on Championship Sunday. But I also kind of love to see that they can. They're not riding off into their glory, the sunset yet. But I love to see that they can get together and do some collaboration videos, and that they can, be still good role models and model adults for the kids to see as well.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. when that happened, my first thought was like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with MotoGP at all or not,
Mm-mm,
but
mm-mm.
so you had two racers that were racing for Yamaha, Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. They raced on the same manufacturer bike, but they couldn't stand each other. So I thought it was
Mm.
gonna be a feud like that. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
No, I mean, they got to go to team dinners together occasionally. They have to do photo shoots together occasionally. But I thought it was really big of both of them when you see them doing videos together that no one's forcing them to do, or video and then a video with Climo and some other stuff. Like I love it. Because I think highly of both of those humans, both of those guys who have been so successful and have been at at the top of this game, for the better part of more than a decade. And so I love seeing that, they're not, launching grenades at each other, over
Yeah,
and over again.
yeah. So what has been like the most memorable moment that you've seen on the Pro Tour?
Uh, I go back to even the first Pro Tour event ever, and I think about Bradley Williams winning the first ever Pro Tour, which, no disrespect to Bradley, there's some people who don't even know Bradley's name, and Bradley did not go on to dominate and hasn't been dominant, so to speak. But the fact that he took down the first ever Pro Tour at the famed course that is Maple Hill is something he'll never forget. I mean, that's a feather in his cap. And to know, like, 6 years later, to the day, he wins in Minnesota another Pro Tour event, like that coincidence, and he kind of came out of nowhere to do so. That is, I don't know if I believe in stars aligning or something serendipitous. I don't know what the phrase is. There's a cliche out there or two somewhere, but the fact that he did that is almost beyond insane. Um, Also, just thinking of who we've seen, and this doesn't answer the question that well, but just to see that the Pro Tour has created a life for professional disc golfers. And
Yep.
another that comes to mind, I was just talking about him last night, James Conrad. We may have never seen James Conrad and his full glory and existence and skill set if the Pro Tour didn't exist and he didn't go to the Maple Hill and get his kickoff to be not only a national name, but then also a world champion 5 years later. The Pro Tour provided that opportunity.
Yeah.
And the Pro Tour is also providing all of the opportunities for our top women to conceivably sustainably make a living playing disc golf, which was never possible. Valerie Jenkins could win 19 out of 20 events in a year, including all the biggest events, and go home with 15 grand in her pocket or 20 grand in her pocket. And to see today that you can win 20 or 30 grand on a weekend at some of our events is just mind numbing. So it's hard to pinpoint any one specific memory, but just what it's done for the game is, there's so many people will never know the grind or will never know the hardships because they either only found disc golf,
Mm-hmm.
started playing since the Pro Tours existed. They'll never know what it was like before there was anything remotely close to the real contracts and exposure that there is today. So if I had a memory, it's just it's the opportunities that it's provided, and it's provided jobs to hundreds of other people, including myself and contractors, freelancers, full-time employees, all these people that have a chance to work within disc golf doing something. I think everything that the Pro Tour has provided is absolutely insane. I'm so blessed to be part of it.
Yeah. So what has been the most memorable moment in your personal disc golf career?
Man, a few that come to mind. Wow. I was inducted into the Wisconsin Disc Sports Hall of Fame back in 2011. That, of course, was an honor. I ran the AM Worlds in 2007 here in Wisconsin, where Paul McBeth lost in a playoff, and then a couple years later goes on to be one of the the greatest and wins pro worlds. But watching him lose to a local, which I didn't know anything at the time, he was just this floppy haired 16-year-old. But then to know that was his last amateur event, those come to mind. I mean, I've won some tournaments in various states. I won a doubles tournament here in Milwaukee with my best friend, and we would have went back to back in winning this very prestigious doubles tournament had I not missed a 15-footer at one point. So from a playing perspective, that's been an honor. Cashing at my first cashing at a Pro Worlds was in 2003. I think I tied maybe Johnny McRae and in 2003, and that certainly was a career highlight. And then cashing at any Worlds is such an honor. I don't care if I won $9 or $90. Like to cash at Worlds was always a highlight, and I did that a handful of times. Yeah, I've won a lot of smaller tournaments. I've also TD'd hundreds of tournaments, and I don't know. It's funny because I guess I almost have to compartmentalize which it would be. I mean, I taught a class at a 4-year university, a disc golf class. I did that at 2 different universities. I've installed 30 some courses. Like it just kind of depends on what category. There's a lot of things that I'm either proud of and or could say is my most memorable thing, because I guess it relates to hopefully all of them mostly relate to the growth of the game. And then there's a few personal accomplishments, but yeah, I don't know. I've been there for so many great moments. It's impossible to pinpoint.
That's pretty cool. So as we're looking forward to the next season, the 2026 season, so what are we looking for? Like, what are you looking forward to for on the Pro Tour side for next year?
We're going to see still more integration internationally. I think it's backing off a little bit. We're not going to see quite as many pro tours on the international scene, but I still just love the fact that we have a swing that brings us over to Europe, and whether that's Finland or Norway or Sweden or Estonia or Ala or some of those, that to me shows great growth within the game, that we're fully embracing that, hey, there's so much more outside of the US. So I do love seeing that from the Pro Tour side. We're going to continue to, I guess even though I'm a contracted person, but the Pro Tour is going to, and Disc Golf Network are going to continue to dabble in various hosts and reporters and play-by-play and color commentators. Obviously, Silver Lot being probably that biggest name that so many of us have talked about. So that is it's going to be interesting to see how she does. Of course, I think she'll do great. I have no reason to believe otherwise, but there's a lot of people that always argue, well, you don't have to be a good player to be a good commentator. And a lot of people argue the opposite and say, well, just because you were a good player doesn't make you a good commentator. So we'll see if either of those, sides of that coin are true. I think that's going to be fun to watch. I don't want to say it's just going to be another year, but Worlds, the majors, the major going to be in Virginia, the Pro Tour gear. Yeah, all of it. Like, I don't know. I am excited. And I'm also confirmed, this isn't a spoiler or a exclusive, but I'm also confirmed that I'll be the sideline reporter during the Preserve weekend, which unfortunately I think is the same weekend as Am Worlds in your area in Buffalo.
Bummers.
But I will be the sideline reporter for the Preserve. And the fact that we're going to see a doubles event integrated into the World Champion, or not Worlds, into the Pro Tour, I think is going to be kind of fun. I mean, there's been some criticism of the Preserve. It's too easy, and maybe sometimes it's a little too boring and it's too much of a sprint. I think seeing people team up for that doubles is truly an exciting venture that we should have a lot of fun with. So I'm glad I get to be there for it. And the other big thing that's not really directly Pro Tour related, but certainly has some influence, is in a few weeks I'm going to Asia, Southeast Asia, for the start of the Southeast Asia Tour, which is 1/10,000th of the size of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a drop in the bucket, but it's got to start somewhere. And I am very honored and excited that I will be there for the very first ever disc golf Southeast Asia disc golf tour, and I'll be there for that event as well as its concluding event and all 7 of them. So it's kind of like a rewind. I was there for every single disc golf pro tour event in the first couple of years, and now I'll be there for the first 7 Southeast Asia tour events as well. So yeah, we got to keep growing.
That's really cool. So as we're wrapping this up, do you have any questions for me?
You said that you have found the game just in the last few years, and I guess one of my questions would be, because I feel like it's getting a little easier to do it, but where did you draw that line of, hey, I'm a player and I enjoy this, but then also, hey, there's a media component that I want to also focus on? Like, how was that decision made for you, or how did you arrive at that? Like, oh, hey, I play this, let me go create content. Like,
Yeah.
how did that happen for you?
So it actually happened to me after watching like a pro tour event, like seeing the winners get interviewed, and I was kind of standing there thinking, I'm like, not everyone gets a chance to share their story or like their disc golf journey, and no one really like gets interviews unless they win a lot of tournaments and everything like that. I was like, so why don't I start something where I can interview anybody and everybody? You don't have to win tournaments. You don't even have to be good at disc golf. As long as you just have a passion for it and have a story, I can interview them and let them get their story out there.
That's how you arrived at Spicy Boy.
Yeah.
You said you didn't have to. I'm just throwing jabs. That's awesome, and I totally agree. And I guess I'll just follow it up real quick and say there's plenty of avenues and space within disc golf, and you're exactly right. There's a lot of focus on the top players, the top stars, exclusively the winners, and the big names. And although they, of course, are superstars for a reason, there's so many more moving parts. There's so many more movers and shakers. There's so many more promoters, and truly the people that are probably doing the work that allows for the pro tour to exist, that allows for your favorite course to exist, the people that are implementing, the volunteers, the countless retail shop owners that are really the backbone of a community. And so I just wanted to say I totally agree with you. There are so many more stories than, hey, Gannon, you shot 1,000 under par and you won by 10 and you won another 100 grand. Like, that's all. He's our superstar, but there's so many more stories, and I love that.
Yep. Any other questions?
I guess maybe just to follow up on that a little then is, what do you see long term? Have you thought about long term, whether it's your channel or your integration, your can you travel? Like, what do you have any interest in it? Like, what's kind of the longer, if we're having this talk 5 years from now, what do you hope is different?
What I hope is different is to have a lot more people recorded their episodes on this channel, so that they can hand it out to like a sponsor, like if they're trying to get a sponsorship, or if they just want to look back at, hey, I want to see how my interview went, they could go back and look at this. And the long-term goal of this is just to simply get as many players as I can on here to have their stories shared.
I love it. I love it. What was the backstory to the name? I mean, because there's so many words in disc golf, lots of trendy terms or jargon within our sport. How did you arrive at naming yourself, your podcast, your media outfit?
So it's 2 separate things. I have an obsession with wolves, and then like wolves are always seeking, they're always seeking something. And then I'm notorious for, during practice rounds and tournament rounds, for leaving discs behind and then having to go search for them. So
like, you just forget them?
Yeah, I completely leave them right on the fairway, or I'll leave my putters in the basket, and then people during rounds will be like, "Josh, your putter." I'll be like, "Oh yeah, forgot that."
Okay. So I feel like there's maybe even a thought space or something, or thoughtless space space. I don't know. Anyway, okay. So that makes perfect sense. I think you drew it perfectly together to arrive at all of that. So I love that. Do you care about attending an event, going to a tournament? Do you have any goals or aspirations, either playing or doing media for any particular events?
As far as playing goes, like I'm 34 years old, so obviously I'm never going to go on the pro tour or anything, but it would be cool to go to like a pro tour event and like interview a bunch of people, like a bunch of players that obviously didn't win. It'd be kind of cool to talk to them and be like, hey, even though you didn't win, what was it like out there, and like get interviews with them, and then also interview like people that are in the crowds, like get their
Mm.
stories.
Okay. Did you have any background then in journalism, communication, media, any background in that, whether it was in school as an interest or as something you pursued before doing this?
Nope, I have never no experience at all. I just kind of one day just did this, and I've been learning each episode. I'm learning something new, and I'll read like little things on the internet how I can improve and get better. And it's like, oh, okay,
Well, there's no doubt that the internet always has ideas and feedback, so you never have to worry about a shortage of that. That's for sure. Uh, Maybe my last question for you then is, how long have you been at this exactly? A little over
uh, for 31 weeks so far.
31. Okay, I was going to guess a year, but okay. So if you, I don't know, took whatever colored pill and your brain reset and you started over tomorrow, and maybe somehow you got to keep the good and the bad in doing the reset, but you had to reset and do it over. What would you do differently, like right out of the bat, and therefore, what would your advice be to someone that's just getting started?
Oh, it is. This is funny because I had this conversation with my mom the other day, and she goes, "Hey, you're learning." So one of the things I learned how to do was take all my videos and get them onto one easy location on my YouTube channel. So it's
Mm,
all underneath the podcast. You hit that tab, and all the episodes pop up. Where
yep.
before they were scrambled all over the place, and people were getting lost, and there's no easy way to search it. So now I have it all laid out where people can easily get to each individual episode or watch them all.
Nice. Okay. And then you're editing. Are you you can edit within StreamYard, or are you using one of the Opius kind of clip things, or what are you doing there?
I edit through Restream, so I use
Restream.
this
Okay.
platform and I do all my edits and then upload it. And yeah,
Nice. I love it. Well, it's a wild world out there with a million things to learn, but you're most importantly is you're doing the damn thing, as they say. Like you got to get started. Too many people like myself have sat around and you're always thinking about how to perfect something, or you're not going to start something until you do this. Paralysis by analysis, I think, is the phrase out there, and it all starts with starting, and that's I can't emphasize that enough. And you've already done the tough part, which is starting, and now you only grow and learn and thrive from there. So,
yep.
congrats on doing that.
Thank you. For my last question tonight, where can people find you on social media?
I'm out there. The disc golf guy. Google it, type it into a browser, type it into most apps, and hopefully I have the disc golf guy, login and/or username. So the disc golf guy on Instagram, the disc golf guy on YouTube, the disc golf guy on Facebook, the disc golf guy on Whatnot. So pretty much all, X, pretty much everywhere and anywhere. Threads, it's all out there. The discgolfguy.com, which was recently redone. So I certainly encourage anyone that wants to possibly purchase boxes or bags for shipping. I produce and sell my disc in a box shipping mailers, which thousands of people use every year. But all you got to do is go to the Disc Golf Guy, and that will get you to all you need, or type in the Disc Golf Guy. You'll probably come up with my phone number and even my email address as well. So if you need to get at me, there's plenty of ways to hunt me down. Just stay on top of me. If you don't get like I've told Josh, if you don't get a response right away, don't feel like you're pestering me. Just stay on top of me until I give you a full response.
Yeah. All right, cool. So thank you for being my guest tonight. Thank you for having the time, and have a good night.
All right. Appreciate it. Keep grinding, buddy. Have a good Christmas and a good New Year, and stay safe out there. And hopefully one of these days, maybe I'll run into you in Buffalo. Maybe I'll be picking up one of your discs out of the basket that you forgot as I'm trying to catch up to you.
That would be cool.
All right, pal.